This episode is brought to you by Elevate OS, the only all-in-one community operating system. Elevate OS transforms property management, combining resident engagement, reservations, rent payments, maintenance, and concierge services into a single super app. It also uniquely integrates access control, intercoms, package lockers, and thermostats, eliminating app fatigue and redefining modern apartment living. Visit elevateos.com/MMN for a free demo and see how they can help you level up your operations. Welcome to another episode of the Multifamily Collective. This is first episode post-marathon. Ran a marathon in Fort Lauderdale, Florida this past weekend. I had the opportunity to hang out with my family, some of which I'd not seen in 33 years, which is spectacularly bad, but still we're catching up after 33 years. Also had the opportunity to run some short distances with my daughter, Kate, who jumped in and ran a few miles with me on two different occasions, maybe more than a few miles. And I got to tell you, the absolute inspiration and motivation that I got out of that moment in time, having my daughter run aside me, was just spectacular. There are no words. Okay. For today's episode, I want to talk about something that I read in Matt Knight's newsletter. It's called Vertical, News and Thoughts on Property Tech. The title of the newsletter is The Tip of the PropTech Spear. I love Matt's writings. I try to read his newsletter every single week. Yes, I do print it out. Yes, I understand that potentially is going to make some people angry, but that is what it is. I'm not going to stop the practice. So Matt wrote a newsletter, and he was talking, basically the essence of this newsletter is about startups in the multifamily space and going after the big property companies that had a lot of units under management, whether they be through third-party relationships or owned and managed, but trying to land a big fish, so to speak, in the multifamily ecosystem instead of going after what Matt calls the Goldilocks. I think he calls it the Goldilocks Zone. And the way that he describes the Goldilocks Zone is the companies that are big enough to have a tech budget, but small enough to say yes or no in a week. And his big punchline there, which I agree with and I think is pretty insightful, is that you could spend all of your time, money, and resource chasing after a big fish. And because of right, wrong, or indifferent, a bureaucracy that is internal to that organization and or that organization having or possessing internal resources to make a lot of things happen on their own, you may spin your wheels for months, if not years, to try to land that big deal versus going after this Goldilocks Zone, which are companies that are going to tell you yes or no very quickly, which is kind of cool in the sense that you're going to give you information to make your product or your delivery or your pitch better quickly, and or they're going to give you the opportunity to do business with them or not, right? You're going to know pretty quickly because they're going to tell you and they have the money to spend. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Matt for writing this newsletter, first and foremost, but then providing that very insightful look at a startup that's trying to make their way into the multifamily. So I think he's talking about real estate in general, commercial real estate in general. But for those of you out there in the startup space, I'll link up to the newsletter. I'll put a link in the show notes. But the big takeaway here is don't go after the big ones. Don't do it unless you have some very unique insights or very unique avenue to a decision maker and you have high probability of closing the deal. Don't do that. I think Matt is right, 100% right. Go after the fish that you can actually catch, so to speak. Take care. We'll talk to you again soon.